That doesn't bode well.
Hey, you cool?
Yeah, I'm cool. What about you? Alright, I'm getting a little bit suspicious here. Yeah, these guys are definitely planning to do something stupid.
Commencing cargo retrieval.
Well, never mess with a prey you can't handle.
Ready to bring it on board.
The deadliest part of Manhattan. The Dark Zone. Every time I get pissed and bored of the Division story, I just enter the Dark Zone and remember why this game is awesome. Now, if you've watched my Tom Clancy's The Division Sucks video, with a question mark at the end, just so there isn't any confusion, I said in that video that I'm gonna talk about the Dark Zone in a future video. I was referring to this one, by the way. In this video, I'm gonna try and give you a few tips on how to survive in the Dark Zone. But first, what is the Dark Zone? The Dark Zone is the deadliest part of Manhattan. It's the place where the virus hit the most and was also the place that the Joint Task Force used to quarantine the infected people. At least, it was the place that was used to quarantine the infected people. Now it's a walled-off wasteland filled with looters, thieves, killers, and sometimes Division agents who enter the Dark Zone and go rogue. Now that's the lore perspective of the Dark Zone. As for us players, this is the place to get the highest loot and fight the toughest enemies. This place is crawling with enemies that are hard to kill, but they drop the best gear. But that's not what makes the Dark Zone stands out. What makes it stand out is the fact that this is the PvP side of the Division. PvP standing for player versus player. This is the place where you encounter other Division agents and you can either fight with them and gain loot together, or you can go rogue and fight against them. Now, meeting other players and going on battles together is fun, but what's interesting is going rogue. Going rogue adds a sense of anxiety every time that you meet another player, making you watch your back for anyone that might cross you. Also, you'd be making sure that you don't rub that elite player wrongly so he won't get the wrong idea and fuck you up. What makes going rogue in the Division so different from something like free roaming in Grand Theft Auto Online and getting shot by a random player is that in the Division, it has purpose. No one will shoot you out of spite. Of course, there will always be trolls, but my point is, most players in the Dark Zone only attack other players if they want loot. And most of the time, it's not just about the gear. Gear is easy to come by. You can kill any of the NPCs roaming around the Dark Zone and you'll get gear. But it's the rare stuff that matters. Things like Dark Zone keys and Dark Zone credit, which can be acquired by killing NPCs, but it's much rewarding when going rogue. Some players will go rogue for the XP, since killing other players and surviving their rogue status will not only increase their notoriety as the player to not fuck with, but also give a huge amount of XP. Going rogue is really fun and adds a sense of anxiety and awareness every time you play in the Dark Zone. However, a lot of people will argue that it's really unnecessary, which is a good argument if you said that, but you'd be also a little wrong, because it is necessary, and going rogue adds a sense of anxiety and awareness, which is the same thing I said for the third time now. But what I didn't say is, or at least didn't specify, is it's the thought of going rogue that adds the Dark Zone its sense of anxiety and awareness. Because this feature depends on the player and whether he wants to go rogue or not. And if you enter a server where all the players don't want to go rogue and want to just work together or work alone to gain loot, then it makes the practicality of going rogue useless. But it's thought very useful in studying the treacherous, scary and grim tone of the Dark Zone. Roaming around the Dark Zone looking for the best loot, killing NPCs and rogue agents is fun. But there are a few things that I don't like about the Dark Zone, or at least annoy me. One small annoyance is this landmark system. It's basically these places where most of the higher level NPCs roam around in. These are the spots that you want to go to if you want better loot, division tech, or if you're just looking for a tough fight. The problem is the same thing with the encounter system. It's not random, it's not unknown. It's a marked place on the map that you have to go to, which annoys me because I wish that they were random, both the landmark system and the encounter system alike. My biggest annoyance, however, is that the Dark Zone doesn't have any missions. I mean, it wasn't included in the story, which if you played the story of the game, you'll realize that it's fucking stupid. I really hope that the Dark Zone will include some story content, if not story missions, then at least some standalone missions or objectives, just like the ones in Wasteland mode in Arma, forcing players to work together and also have a bit of narrative in the Dark Zone. But that wasn't the case. I really feel like this game's story will be like Destiny's, where it'll only get better after you buy all the DLCs and play them, which is again fucking stupid, and puts Ubisoft as petty as how they're fucking shown off right now. Anyways, that's all what I think of the Dark Zone. Now, let me give you a few tips on how to survive the Dark Zone, since you probably are all noobs. Maybe. I'm guessing. Okay, maybe not. So, tips on how to survive the Dark Zone. Tip number 1. Enter when you're ready. Now, this is mostly targeted for players who just started playing this game, so if you're one of them, then listen carefully. Don't enter the Dark Zone unless you're at least level 18. Now my recommended level is 20, but if you're craving to get some action in the Dark Zone, level 18 is the best time to enter. The reason I chose this level is because by the time you've reached that level, you would have finished most of the story, upgraded more than half of your rings in your base of operations, and also learned enough of experience to play in the Dark Zone. My biggest reason though is because the game match makes you in a server based on your PvE level and not your Dark Zone level. If you look up on the right corner, you can see the PvE level is the yellow one and the purple one is the Dark Zone level. I'm telling you this because the game might matchmake you with someone who's level 30 in PvE, while his level in the Dark Zone is somewhat like 58. And the game hardly tells you what his Dark Zone level is, so I chose this level because it's low enough that you'd rarely encounter high level Dark Zone players, but high enough to get a decent fight and decent loot. Tip number 2 is check your gear. Now this is a big tip for both new players and even seasoned ones. Before you enter the Dark Zone, always check your loadout in the base of operations. If you've unlocked the recalibration desk up in the tech wing, always head there and recalibrate your gear to balance them. Now when you're balancing your gear, you should always balance your gear in this kind of order. Your firearm / DPS being the highest so that you deal the highest damage, your health must be at least half what your primary DPS is, and your skill power is at least a tenth of what your primary DPS is. Now the better gear you get, the higher your DPS, health and skill power increase. That's not always the case though. Sometimes you get gear that pushes one aspect of your character but leaves the other two. what you need to do in that situation is always save your gear until you get something that would balance it. Also, that's where the recalibration desk comes in. Use that feature to change any gear's attributes to best suit you and balance your character. You can also use gear mods to help balance your loadout. Tip number 3. Watch your back. Whenever you get in the dark zone, it's a death sentence. You're gonna die. A lot of times. Now there's nothing that I can do except is to really follow my second tip, which will help decrease the likelihood of dying, but this tip is directed at rogue players. Watch your back for rogue players. No, I mean literally. Whenever there is another player behind you, always watch your back. The best way to avoid being the reason another player turns rogue is to literally avoid them. However, there are specific spots and moments that players will take advantage of you. These are the spots that I want you to look out for. First spot, or spots, is the landmarks laid out on the map. Like I said before, landmarks usually have the hardest enemies. That means you'll use most of your resources to take them out. Players will usually attack you when you're in the middle of the fight, when you don't have any medkits or abilities to heal yourself, and you're probably on half health anyways, making you an easy target. Another spot is the extraction areas. This is the most common place for people to go rogue on your ass, especially when you're in the process of extracting your items. Players will usually take you out before you successfully extracted your items and then steal your loot and extract it on the spot. It's really tricky to run from them because you're going to be stuck at the extracting animations, and before you know it, you dead. The best way to combat this is by making all the players in the extraction area extract their loot at the same time. Although really, it's always a gut choice. If you don't feel comfortable being with other players, you can always extract from a different extraction area, unless you're the one trying to go rogue. If so, then tip number 4. Going rogue is about taking the opportunity. A lot of people seem to think that going rogue is about showing off how much better you are. That's somewhat true if you survived, but going rogue isn't about showing off how much better or stronger you are. It's about showing off how much cunning you are. Going rogue is an act of betrayal. You can't do it unless you're certain that you're going to make it alive. It's about doing it when least expected and when the player is comfortable with you. Places like the one I mentioned in the last tip are very good spots to do it, but it's also how you do it. If you want to kill a player, you always do it from behind. It gives you enough time to kill them before they fight back. Or when they're hiding behind cover, you can just take them out before they can run away. Or when they're extracting, like I said before, or when they're fighting NPCs. Fight with them and act like you're gonna extract with them. The point is to gain their trust, and when you do, you betray them and take their loot, DZ credit, DZ keys, and whatever else they have. Tip number 5. Never go rogue with a full sack. When you're about to go rogue, it's always tricky since you have a chance of dying and losing all your loot. And even if you survive, chances are you might be killed by another player and lose all the loot you gathered and the loot you've stolen. Now, like I said, loot is very easy to come by in the dark zone. But it's also a very good incentive to kill someone in the dark zone. You might have high-end loot that you want. But if you have loot as well, and you try to kill him, but end up dead, he'll just steal your loot. Or you might even live, but when you're about to steal his loot, you can't, since you have a full sack. And since you can't really steal his loot, you might say, I'll just deconstruct whatever I don't need. But with the target on your back, do you really want to take 15 seconds to deconstruct your loot while 10 players are coming to kill you? 1 or 2 of those players probably want to cut off your head and eat it off a fucking stick. What I'm trying to say is, it's best to die and lose a few credits than dying and losing all your loot as well. And those are all the tips I have for you guys. I actually do have more, but I just didn't want to let the video keep going on and on and on. Also, on the Dark Zone, it's not a bad mode for an open world game like The Division, but I feel like it's hinged on this overrated PvP feature that if you kill someone, you're a rogue agent. If that's what you want, then why not make it in the full map and not part of it? It certainly seemed like that in the E3 2013 gameplay video. The Dark Zone is not a bad mode, and the rogue status is not a bad feature. I just feel like they're a little overrated. I mean it literally and not as a sign of hate. It's a good mode that has been rated over what it deserves. If they added other PvP game modes and maybe objectives in the Dark Zone open world map that drove players to fight with and against each other, then yeah, the mode, the whole game in fact, is rated to what it deserves. So let me know in the comment section below and in the poll card up on the right corner of the video. What do you think of the Dark Zone mode in The Division? And that's it guys. If you enjoyed my video, then give me the likes and give me the comments, and if you dislike my video, then I really don't give a fuck about dislikes. Sue me. Actually no, can you wait until YouTube starts paying me and I become a big star and have millions of fans, and I'd use my fame to make underage teenage girls do things to my pee-pee? Just an all-around prankster, I mean a dipshit celebrity. Thanks, that means a lot. What you can do now is subscribe to my channel for more of this asshole that you're listening to right now. By the way, assholes are better than dipshits, just letting it out there. And share my videos to your friends and relatives, because sharing my videos will get my channel noticed. This was MZ101. Hey guys, see you later next time.